It's a dark time for the Imperium, apparently. Welcome back to Society Case Files. My name is Robert, and today I'm going to talk about Space Marine Mastercrafted Edition. If you like this kind of content and you want to see more, please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Otherwise, I'm going to dive right in. Space Marine came out in 2011, and I played the living heck out of it. I absolutely loved it. It was super fun back then, and it had great graphics. The multiplayer got me involved, and the story was super fun to play through as well. Fast forward to Space Marine 2 coming out. It's a critical success. Everyone loves it. And so some fool was sitting around going, wait a minute, don't we have some Space Marine game? And they're like, yeah. And like, well, couldn't we just, I don't know, spruce it up and put it out, make some money? And they're like, I guess. But isn't that a little unethical to try and take players from the PvP of that? No, none of that. Just do it. Just make it happen. And that sort of seems to be what happened here, because Space Marine is not all that different from the original game. I've looked at some side-by-side stuff, and quite frankly, it's not considerably better. In fact, in some scenes, it's impossible to tell there's a difference. And as I say, they did put in the PvP, everything's there, but it all feels a little loosey-goosey. And quite frankly, while the single player game is fine and it is as fun as it has been, there are people reporting lots of bugs and glitches, things that they experienced the first time around. So even though they have gone ahead and supposedly remastered it, they didn't solve any of the problems. They basically slapped a 4K texture on it, updated the controls a little bit to make them, as they put it, more modern, but I see complaints about that as well, and then threw it out there. I mean, in a lot of ways, this was even a shadow release for me. I didn't even know about it until like 8 or 9 days ago, and I happened to see that it was going to be available, I should say, on Xbox Game Pass, which is how I played it. If you don't want to use Game Pass, it does cost $40, which seems like quite a bit of money for a game that really doesn't do a whole lot of different stuff than it came out with before. I did check. It doesn't look like the same people made these two games. Like the folks that made Space Marine 2 do appear to be a completely different set of team and publisher than the previous ones. In fact, the publisher for the original Space Marine and Mastercrafted Edition is Sega, and the folks who did Space Marine 2 are Focus. I don't know if there is a correlation. If there is, please let me know. I don't know. But regardless, this does feel like a pretty slapdash, desperate attempt to get some free money. You watch the video and it goes into great detail. Remastered audio, updated controls, on and on and on. But quite frankly, as I was playing it, there were a lot of problems. For example, one of the things that happened to me was that I could barely hear some of the dialogue. It was just drowned out by a lot of other noise, and I couldn't really play with the audio settings well enough to help them pull those parts out that I needed to hear. And the controls are okay, but it was a little bit confusing to try and get the weapons changed out and that sort of thing. I really feel like if they wanted to make a true amount of money from this, if they wanted to have done it right, then they needed to be more patient, let folks know that they were going to do it, and put it in the Space Marine 2 engine. Like, recraft it from that. Yeah, that's probably a lot more work, but I bet you people would have paid it and been a lot happier to pay it than they are at this point, having dumped their $40 or whatever and then found out that it's just not that much better. I mean, especially if you already owned it. Like, they should be able to tell on Steam or wherever else that you have already paid for the original Space Marine game and at least given you a discount or something. At least that's what a lot of folks are saying. Now, I don't know how much work really went into this. Sadly, it doesn't look like much. And if it was, then that's really sad, because again, I played the heck out of this game. I beat it twice back in the day, and then I played it again recently, just tooled around in it, didn't get very far, and then, you know, tried it now, and I gotta say, it doesn't feel like this was really worth the effort. Oddly, it requires the Epic launcher to play. Even though I installed it with Xbox Game Pass and people are reporting that they played it on Steam, it still launches Epic to play, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. They should have just used the Epic launcher entirely and gained the benefits of using their exclusive platform at that point. Although I guess maybe they were concerned that not as many people would buy it. And the fact that it's on Game Pass is also kind of weird. I guess in a lot of ways, I'm not nearly as upset about it as some of these negative reviews are. But then again, I didn't pay any extra money for it. Had I spent $35, I probably would have immediately refunded it because it's just not significantly different enough to warrant buying it again. I mean, I already did buy it twice, once for the Xbox back in the old days, and then once for the PC again to do a second playthrough, and I think I've given them enough for it. Now, had they done what I said earlier, used the Space Marine 2 engine and crafted it from the ground up, I would probably have been willing to give them $30 just because I absolutely love the story and everything. I understand why that's a foolish request, and I get that it just would cost more than it's probably worth, but at the same time, trying to cash in this way, it's just so shifty. And especially since Space Marine 2 has the same kind of PvP. So to release a game that is pretty much in direct competition, but the same thing, is also shifty. It's like, just maybe leave the PvP out and drop the price a little bit. Though I know, it probably would have offended people too. But games these days only have so many people they can pull in, and with other titles vying for our attention like Dune Awakening and whatever else is coming out, there's already a bunch of distractions. So when pretty much the same thing comes along and tries to steal the player base from the newer thing, that's just crap. It's just going to make the Space Marine 2 experience lesser, and it's kind of that game's time to shine. There are a lot of great remasters, things like the Resident Evil games that they've been doing, the Silent Hill, that kind of thing. They're doing really good work. But in the case of Space Marine 2, this game is literally only here to ride the hype train of Space Marine 2. Instead of bolstering the sales of Space Marine 2 or the interest in it, it's actually trying to take away. I mean, it's offering all the same features, just older looking, and apparently not very good as far as the controls are concerned. So all around, I think that this was just made in bad faith, and it wasn't done very well. And ultimately, we've been given something that, while it's kind of fun to see the nostalgia of it, was unnecessary since the original game still ran pretty darn well for the most part. So I personally don't recommend it. I think that it's not necessarily something that we should be spending money on. I think that the newer game is better in every possible way, save perhaps the story. I think they're both equal, but the newer game just has every modern convenience and quality of life thing that we need. And if they can't take the number one and do what like Resident Evil did, which is recraft it, then just leave it alone. I think that it was really good. It is a shame that it took so many years between the two games, and I know that it's tempting to try and grab extra cash, but these devs really need to try and resist that temptation. Of course they won't, because it's all about the money, but it always sucks when it comes down to that. But anyway, what do you guys think? Have you played Space Marine Remastered? What do you think of it? Were you excited for it? Is it glitchy? Do you agree with the mostly negative reviews on Steam? Let me know in the comments, and I'll talk to you then. Until next time, this is Robert with Society Case Files, signing off.